Some careers follow a clear, pre-planned trajectory. Others are shaped by unexpected opportunities. Rafiza Ghazali's journey from corporate restructuring during the 1998 financial crisis to leading KAF Digital Bank is a story of adaptability and seizing the right moments. Now at the forefront of Malaysia's digital banking revolution, she reflects on how she got here.
Never in my mind that I thought one day I'll be in a bank and even be a CEO of a bank. I think a lot of over the years where I've been to, unlike, some people where they're very different, they really know what they want, right? So in my case, I was like, I know I wanted to be in finance, but finance is very broad. And for me, all the various steps comes from opportunity.
Stepping into the digital banking space comes with new challenges. Operating entirely online means balancing compliance, trust, and innovation. Ensuring regulatory stability is just as crucial as pushing boundaries.
We need to make sure that everything that we do, rather than put innovation at the forefront, we need to make sure that they comply with regulation. No point in us trying to be innovative, but it can't meet the bank requirements. So those are the main criteria that we put, when we first, did this project. And it's same thing with the other digital banks as well.
Financial inclusion is at the heart of KAF Digital Bank's mission. Traditional banking models often exclude small business owners due to a lack of formal documentation. Alternative data-driven approaches are changing this.
If they have data through their, like in this case, StoreHub has got data of the small business owners as well. So then from there you can understand their credit behavior as opposed to bank statements and financial. Yes, they do help them, but there's more than just 3 months bank statement. We can take a look at what's their 1 year's behavior track record, and from there can we apply some sort of an alternative credit scoring where they may be able to get financing compared to otherwise if they have to go to a traditional bank.
From navigating the financial crisis to pioneering digital banking, Rafiza's journey is a testament to adaptability and leadership. Please enjoy this episode from the AIBP ASEAN B2B Growth Podcast.
The AIBP ASEAN B2B Growth Podcast is a series of fireside chats with business leaders in Southeast Asia focused on growth in the region. Topics discussed include business strategy, sales and marketing, enterprise technology, and innovation.
Hello, and welcome to the ASEAN B2B Growth Podcast, where we sit down with individuals responsible for driving growth within their organizations here in Southeast Asia. My name is Vanessa, and I'll be your host for today. In this episode, we are excited to have Ms. Rafiza Ghazali, the Chief Executive Officer of KAF Digital Bank. KAF Digital Bank is actually one of the 5 successful applicants granted the digital banking license by Bank Negara Malaysia. Rafiza brings with her a wealth of experience to the role, with over 26 years of experience in the financial industry. Rafiza, thank you for joining us today. To kick off our conversation, I would love to explore how your various experiences in the financial sector have led you to where you are today. Maybe you could share with us a little bit about your journey, how you ended up at KAF Digital Bank, and also how basically it has shaped your experiences.
Okay, thanks. Thanks, Vanessa, and AIBP for having me. Well, yeah, I was just giving a thought of it. When I first started, I was just recalling when I first started my first job. Never in my mind that I thought one day I'll be in a bank and even be a CEO of a bank. I think a lot of over the years where I've been to, unlike, some people where they're very different, they really know what they want, right? So in my case, I was like, I know I wanted to be in finance, but finance is very broad. And for me, all the various steps comes from opportunity. which, there's pros and cons, that I know some people say that, oh, you need to plan your career growth, you need to, to me, that's a whole exciting bit of the journey. You come across something that you didn't really anticipate, and then you seize the opportunity. So that's been sort of my career paths. And if I look at, if I were to look at my CV, and then I see, there's various experience, although, they're all within the ambit of either finance or, of corporates. I've not gone out and try entrepreneurship, if that's what I'm saying. So, over the 26 years, it's been more of working in a corporate. It started off with an accounting firm. I knew I wanted a certification. Even when I was doing my degree, I was doing accounting and finance at university. I knew that I just didn't want to just go to the work, with just a degree. I wanted something more to it. I think, especially at that time, I remember this, you're talking, in the mid 1990s or even early 1990s. And a degree alone is not enough. And hence why, I really wanted to do a certification. And I started off, and of course, to get a chartered accountant, I have to work with an accounting firm. So that's how I started. And then after that, the crisis came. The crisis came, and I was due to come back to Malaysia at that time. No one was hiring. And especially, someone with just having the, sort of in the early years, so people were being laid off. So, and the one of the most exciting thing to do at that time was corporate restructuring. So I joined a special purpose vehicle that was set up by the government to, to buy over non-performing loans from the financial industry. So I thought, okay, that would be a great way for me, to get into the thing. And luckily, it's probably one of my best decisions in terms of career, because I get to see a lot, not just from the company itself, the company that, we restructure, but also from the standpoint of what it means to the financial institution that we buy the NPL from. And from there, you sort of learn, like, what happened, what could the financial institution do better, etc., etc. So that sort of opened my mind. And then along the way, I've had various experience, but it's sort of within, and now I'm back to financial, industry. So I started off with financial industry, bailing out, banks that, that were laden with NPLs, and now I'm, back, working in a bank. And when we had the COVID-19, right, it sort of, when that happened, it brought memories to the time when I was going through the 1998 financial crisis, because there were a lot of companies that got into trouble. And at that time, I was cradle, so we were at a stage where we can actually help the startups. So before, during 1998 crisis, when I was at Dana Harta, we were helping out the borrowers, and then the COVID-19, it's the same business model, similar business model. You have the assistance, you have startups in trouble. So, and everyone was just, trying to figure out what to do, so it sort of brought back memories to what I experienced in 98. So, so I've seen a different spectrum of, helping out borrowers, being a borrower, being an issuer, and then now I'm back at a financial institution. Yeah.
So you've basically gone one round from managing NPLs, in Dana Harta days you mentioned earlier during the 1998 financial crisis. And then you've also kind of helped to spearhead the innovation initiatives at Sam Dhabi back then.
Yeah.
And then you've gone on to be with Cradle. How has all these different experiences, to a certain extent, I would say it involves risk management as well as innovation. How has it kind of influenced your current mindset and your current drive for digital banking? Well, we will go more deeper into your current role in KAF, but maybe we can start with that.
Yeah. So, you know, as you know, so when I was at SAMW, right? At that time, it was an early stage where, companies, especially very established companies, trying to be innovative. But, being innovative, and especially if you are a very established organization, you need to have sound risk management controls within the organization, because the chances of the concept fail is very high. So what do you do? What are the things that you need to take into consideration to sort of protect the people that has the innovation, and also the board of directors? Because hey, you were doing something new, we're doing something which no one does. And so, and as you know, the fear of people, especially at that time, I think now it's a lot better. I think the fear of failing is very real at that time, because it involved jobs and trying to convince something that's never been done before to the board of directors, and hence why a sound risk management, but at the same time, nothing too stringent that inhibits creativity. It's very important, so that, the organization needs to allow for these failures to happen, because otherwise people will never be innovative, right? And so that's the same concept that the mindset that we have to use when I was at Cradle, because Cradle, again, you're dealing with early stage startups trying to innovate, trying to do something different. And we were at for some of you who may not know, Cradle Fund is a government agency that provides early stage funding, seed funding to early stage startups, so that they can develop new innovative technology. It's the same mindset as well, because you're talking about government's money, utilizing government's money. What happens if it fails? Because it's like, again, especially at the early stage, 9 out of 10 ideas will fail. So but you need to have a mechanism to make sure that all parties are protected, and that we are not abusing the structure just to give out grants for the sake of giving out grants.
Understand. And maybe I think this is the perfect segue for us to go deeper into your current venture. Maybe for our international audience who may not be that familiar with KAF Digital Bank, could you perhaps give us a brief introduction? You're one of the license holders who are going to play in the Islamic digital banking space. So maybe a brief introduction about that as well.
Okay. So back in 2022, Central Bank, which is Bank Negara Malaysia, issued out 5 new license for the digital bank under the regulatory framework. So for them to set up a new digital bank. So even though they've given out the license, but subject to operational readiness. So this is something new, because central banks, as you know, especially Malaysia, it's not often that they give out new license. And the difference between this new digital bank license compared to the other incumbent banks that goes through digitalization is the fact that we're not allowed to have any branch. So everything from onboarding all the way to regulatory reporting needs to be online. So, we're not allowed to have branches. We're not allowed to have face-to-face customer service. So everything is done electronically. And it's regulated by central banks. So, as you know, like MES, before we are allowed to operate and onboard customers, we need to go through a very rigorous assessment, both by an independent party and also central bank. So that was back in 2022. So as you know, out of the 5, 3 were given license. Well, Grab, which is GXP, were the first one to come out, followed by Aeon and Boost last year. So end of last year, December, so Ministry of Finance give green light to operate to the last 2 digital banks, which is ourselves and also a consortium of YTL and C and they branded their bank as Right Bank. Yeah. So that's where we are at the moment.
Understand. And maybe if you can go a little bit deeper into kind of serving the customer segments and building customer experience. Earlier, you mentioned that as digital banks, you have to do everything digitally, so no branches, no physical interactions. So
Yeah.
I understand as well that you've also recently started the alpha testing phase for the KAF
Yeah.
Digital
In
Bank.
fact, today.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just walk us through a couple or like some of the initiatives that you are currently working on. How are you looking to kind of drive the customer experience if you are actually doing everything digitally?
Okay. So then, when central bank give, the 5 of us the license, the mandate is to serve the underserved. So i.e. because incumbent banks are doing a good job with, looking at the very bankable clients. But in Malaysia, there are still quite a large number of segments. Maybe they have a bank account, but that's what they call it, underserved, due to various reasons. Majority of it due to lack of documentation and lack of track record. As you know, currently how they are being assessed by the incumbent banks, a lot of it requires a lot of track record, and this is where Bank Negara give us a mandate. The new digital banks. This is the segment that we need to look at. The underserved and the underserved and the unserved. Now, with respect to customer experience, it is very, very important because we are all new digital banks, right? It is very important when we design the, user journey is that it has to be simple and, as a customer, as a new customer, you're trying to open a bank account with a new bank, what's one thing that you look at is trust, right? Okay, is this credible? Is this trustworthy? Are they, will my money be safe? So I think at the end of the day, you always need to go back to the problem statement. And why are they underserved? There are various reasons. One of them, not many people have the luxury to go to a bank branch to do banking services. Maybe, they are small business owners, for every couple of hours that they have to go to the bank, it's loss of income for them. So they want to be able to do everything on their app. So that's another thing that we, when we design the user journey, is that we need to make sure that it's simple, and you don't need to have, you don't need to have a PhD to be able to, onboard. That's number one. And number two is that again, at this stage where there's so many scammers and people hacking into security, how do you give the comfort to the customers to bank with you? So I think those are the thing that when we look at, those are for us at the beginning, because we don't have any track record. That's one of the things, those are some of the things that we take into consideration when we design the user journey.
Understand. And earlier on, we spoke a little bit about innovation and risk management. To innovate, you also need to have to balance rather the risk part of it. For yourself as digital bank, I'm quite sure you are very stringently regulated by the central bank as well.
Yeah.
But how do you, or how will you kind of measure the success of your innovation efforts at the digital bank? And earlier you mentioned that customers are at the forefront of what you do. So are there certain metrics, certain KPIs that you'll be using to track the innovation at the digital bank?
Oh, okay. At the moment, to be honest, we, I have to be honest, at the beginning, because the effort that it takes for us to cross the starting line, we need to make sure that everything that we do, rather than put innovation at the forefront, we need to make sure that they comply with regulation. No point in us trying to be innovative, but it can't meet the bank requirements. So those are the main criteria that we put, when we first did this project. And it's same thing with the other digital banks as well. But some are a lot better at being innovative, because it all depends on at that time what the market is looking for. Are they looking, as a customer, I'm asking you a question. Are you looking for something simple that works, or are you looking for something innovative that 50-50 that it works, at the beginning? And so in a lot of, when we were going through with at the SAMW as well, like whatever it is, it needs to work, at the beginning. And later on, then that's when you become innovative. And it's the same thing with a lot of technology as well. A lot of the technology that we have come across initially, it could be a little bit clunky, but it works, it's stabilized. And to us, that's very important. And then once it's stabilized, then you can be a little bit more creative and trying to be innovative. So, and especially it's not so easy because we are a regulated industry. If you're not a regulated industry, and if you're not talking, and if you're not in a business of safeguarding, public's money, then then that is a different story, So yeah.
I understand. And do you think in the near future or even in the foreseeable future, do you see potential opportunities for KAF Digital Bank to operate outside of Malaysia? See, for example, in the ASEAN markets across Southeast Asia?
Definitely, that is something that we are not discounting at all. Obviously, in order to scale, you can't just rely on the local market. But at the moment, the priority is to serve the Malaysians. That's our priority. Make sure that because that's a mandate given by Bank Negara.
And I think going on from there as well, we've seen a lot of changes in the global banking sector, especially in the US. Do you see those disruptions coming into ASEAN, coming into Malaysia, affecting what you are currently doing? And I guess also maybe it's slightly different for the Islamic finance space. Are there special considerations, certain disruptions that you are aware of or trying to kind of navigate through at the moment?
Yes and no, because our market is very different. At the end of the day, it's also depending on the readiness of the market. Like for example, in the US, open banking is there, but in Malaysia, probably we're not ready yet, because in order for us to have an open banking, you need to have the right infrastructure in place so that, it can be conducted in a secure and trusted manner. So yes, there are some things disruptive, what they call it, technology that are, that can be applied in US, may or may not necessarily, can be applied to the Malaysian market or even ASEAN market. As you know, the markets are different. Things that may work in other developed countries. And that's why, certain technology works depending on the maturity of, the people. I'll give you an example. As you know, Malaysia, Singapore, we are so dependent on Grab and Uber, right? But you can't really use that in Japan because the public transport there is so good, and there's no demand, people can't buy cars and become an Uber driver or Grab driver, because of so there are certain things which you can, but yeah, we just need to be, mindful of that.
Understand. And you mentioned something very interesting, right? The applications of technology and how in terms of the use cases can support what you're actually driving in Malaysia. We've heard a lot of buzz around AI. Everyone's really on the AI bandwagon right now. Do you see a lot of applications or successful applications that can support what you are currently doing for serving the underserved markets at the digital bank?
Oh yeah, that one is given, like I don't think you can not use any form of AI in your business if you want to survive, right? For a lot of financial institutions, the opportunity would be efficiency. So having AI, especially doing the low, the sort of the initial low level work, as opposed to having, humans doing it. Things like automation, managing complaints, managing, customer service, addressing query issues, that is a given. And then now you see, people use AI to personalize customer experience. So, i.e., they understand, they learn your behavior, and, then they can make recommendations on what are the things that you need, which you didn't realize that you need. So those are, I believe strongly that, that's something that can be applied, especially in the financial industry.
Understand. And beyond applications of technologies, one of the key areas, or rather one of the strong suites, I would say, of the digital banking licenses in Malaysia is actually the partnerships and the consortiums that you've formed. KAF Digital Bank has actually worked with like KASM, Money Match, Store Hub also, I believe. So how has these partnerships actually kind of strengthened the overall growth strategy of the digital banks? And are you kind of like leveraging each other's reach, like the ecosystem play, or how does the dynamics kind of look like at the moment?
Well, some of you, for some of you who may not know that, the consortium makes up of KAF Investment Bank, which is an established investment bank in Malaysia. KASM, I think most of you know who KASM is, Genexu, Store Hub, and Money Match. Yes, you're right. But KAF Investment Bank has been in Malaysia for the last 50 years, but they're very strong in investment bank, being a bank. And we know for a start that, and it's a lead consortium member. So, but KAF Investment Bank are not too familiar, unlike the other consortium members, on the retail market. And as you see, the customers of our current consortium members are the underserved market. And we leverage on our consortium members to really understand the needs of the underserved, because, these are the people that they deal with. Whereas, KAF Investment Bank, what we bring to the table is the fact that, we know how a bank works. A digital bank is still a bank, well, whether we like it or not. Excuse me. There are still some functions that you require to run as a bank, like risk management, compliance, all the governance structure. And I think that's the what we call it, we leverage on each other's strength, when we go out to the market.
Understand. And one of the digital bank's strategies is actually to kind of redefine financial inclusion for the Malaysian markets. How are you actually utilizing digital tools to kind of drive the SME market, or like even the underserved communities in Malaysia?
Okay, so again, when we, try to understand, if you put yourself in the shoes of, your potential customer, which is, say, for example, a small entrepreneur, in a restaurant business, what are their problem statement? If you look at the business, they don't have a full-time CFO to look after their finances. Most of them is the business owner themselves that does the financing, that does the some level of bookkeeping, and and then maybe they might engage a small accounting firm to do their bookkeeping at the end of the year, so that they can file, even if they have to. But even like a lot of the say, for example, the hawker stores or whatever, they don't even have any form of I don't know, accounting platform, right? But they do need banking facilities. They do need, say, for example, or they want to transfer money or send money, or they want to perhaps, just before the festive seasons, they need some liquidity or whatever. What are their problems? Their problems is that banks may not necessarily, well, as incumbent banks may not necessarily entertain them because they don't have a fixed income, right? Their incomes fluctuate. And this is where, as a digital bank, you can leverage on data. So say, for example, if they have data through their, like in this case, StoreHub has got data of, the small business owners as well. So that then from there you can understand their credit, their credit behavior as opposed to, bank statements and, financial. Yes, they do help them, but, there's more than just 3 months, financial, bank statement. We can take a look at, what's their 1 year's behavior track record. And from there, can we apply some sort of an alternative credit scoring where, they may be able to get financing compared to, otherwise if they have to go to a traditional bank. Yeah.
Understand. And I think that will also change slightly after Malaysia kind of do the national digital ID properly.
Yes. Yeah. That helps as well,
And I think it would definitely be exciting to see how that would kind of shape the banking landscape in Malaysia.
Yes.
I'm cognizant and I kind of wanted to shift gears slightly. For you personally, Rafiza, how do you gauge different successes in your leadership or like your role models? Who do you look up to? With International Women's Day approaching, are there certain female role models that essentially you look up to, model after certain benchmark or goals that you kind of want to meet or strive to meet on a fairly regularly basis, I would say?
Yeah, for me, I don't just look at one person. There are various role models that I watch, and also again it depends on the situation, right? So in my early years, I remember I was working at the central bank, and the governor then, Tan Sri Zeti, she had a very unique leadership style compared to a lot of other top leaders that I've seen, because especially during that time, she's got a way on getting things done without being in the face, and to me, I have so much respect for that. The minute she enters a room, right, she carries this aura that there's it's a lot more respect rather than fear. Obviously, like when we were at Central Bank, we were like so scared of her, but it's more of out of respect rather than fear. So you're talking about that leadership style, and then again, there's different people who I look up to. There are a lot of some people that I look up to because of the way how they manage crisis. I think that's also another way that I've got one of my ex-boss that he manages crisis very well, and very calm, very composed, don't panic, and I think that's also one I try to whenever a crisis comes to me, which is a lot actually, and I always try to remember, okay, well, how would he handle this, so I pick that as a role model. So different, and what I do sometimes, especially if I go to a conference, right? And I'm talking about this is when I was building my career, not now. Now I don't really care so much, but I remember when I was in my early 30s, and I was nervous about, even networking. I've never been a confident person from day one. I was very shy. I was very introvert. I was one of those who prefer to do work rather than, mingling around. But I know that in order for me to, step up my career, I need, networking is very important. So the first few times I remember going to conference, I was just observing. I was just observing different people, the way how they network. And if I go into a group of people, like, what are the sort of things that they start the conversation with? Like you observe and you learn, and then you kind of like, adapt to your own style, because obviously you can't follow everyone, right? So you have your own style. So those are some of the things, like especially with when the young people, when they ask me, oh, how do I do that? Because now I go into a conference, I go anywhere, like I'm so confident, they how do you do that? I said, it's not easy for me at the start. Some people are very natural at it. They can just go to a room and make conversation, but I'm not. I'm one of those who needed a bit of hard work. And I tell them that a lot of the times observe and then determine whether is that you, because the last thing you want to do is to be fake, right? You need to be natural at it. So you need to be genuine. And this is something that I always tell, people that, I mentor, and yeah, that you need to develop your own style, but observe, from various people.
Understand. I, for one, hope that you won't have too many crises that will be coming your way. But
At least
a-
it's crisis at my end rather than a crisis at the customer's end. I much rather have the crisis now, we solve it before it goes to the customer. Yeah. Because in any new technology, you can't expect anything perfect. If you do, then you're in the wrong business. You do need to expect crisis, but it's just how you manage it. To me, that's important, and how you get everyone to work with you, in addressing those crises. To me, that's very important.
And I think one of my second last question, in fact, for you, over the next 5 years, what is your vision for KAF Digital Bank, the digital bank's role in Malaysia's digital economy, and what are you looking to achieve?
Okay. For us, it's very important that, one of the conditions, before the digital banks can become a full-fledged banks, is that currently we're in the foundational phase. So during the foundational phase, you have some limitations on what you can do. And I think we all aspire to be able to graduate one day. So for us, my number one focus is, for us to be able to graduate to become a full-fledged bank. And there are a number of things that, you need to do. So i.e., whether or not you've addressed the mandate that Bank Negara gave you, i.e., serving the underserved, financial inclusion, financial literacy, and and more importantly is the path to profitability. That we need to make sure that that we have a path to profitability by the time we graduate. Ideally, we turn profit, but if not, at least there is a clear sign that you'll be achieving profitability. So that's very important. So yeah. So for KAF Digital Bank, over the next 3 to 5 years, that's what I'll be looking at. And that is one thing that in 5 years time, that I get people come to me that, hey, I'm your customer and I love your app, it's great, it's amazing, yeah, I hope one day I get people coming that to me. Yeah.
I hope I will be one of those people as well, if you allow foreigners to open your bank account. But I think, Rafiza, something outside of the digital banking space, where do you see the largest growth opportunities, number one, in Malaysia, and then number two, in ASEAN as well?
To me, I'm very excited at, like when, when AI first came out, right? I mean, everyone is so excited. Now I don't want to mention what software, because there's so many out there, and then recently the one in general, it's like, I think especially when I look at the generation of my kids, right, it's just so exciting. There are things that come in and, like you said, it's completely disrupt things which were relevant last week may not be relevant anymore. I think those are the things. It's exciting, but at the same time, it's a bit scary. So I keep on, telling people, be prepared to be unprepared. Like, unlike, maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, preparation is key. everyone say, oh, whatever that you do, you need to prepare. I remember when we were doing, project paper for a new innovation, the more traditional bosses, right, were, oh, you need to do all sorts of analysis, what's your competitive benchmark, blah, blah, blah. And you need to be very prepared, before you can even go out to the market. But nowadays it's like, you need to learn not to be prepared and, go along, as you go out.
I understand. The digital banking revolution will continue to evolve day by day. I think beyond just the technology, it's also,
Yeah.
like you rightly mentioned at the very beginning, how do you build a more inclusive, efficient, and also responsive to what your customers want at the end of the day? So it's something that's definitely very exciting and will keep most of us on our toes. Hopefully, we will see more of good news from KAF Digital Bank in the coming years. And to our listeners, we hope this has kind of given you a bit more understanding to the digital banking landscape in Malaysia and what Rafiza and her team is doing. Thank you very much, Rafiza, for joining us in this feature. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you very soon.
Thanks, Vanessa. Thanks for having me.
We hope you've enjoyed the episode. For more information about business growth in the ASEAN region, please visit our website at www.aibp.sg.